Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to those across this plane. Had this hangout today with, well, recorded partly on a hangout with Gary and Nigel and me. Gary comes through my icon. I'm not very good at moving it on today, by the way. I haven't moved the icon on. Gary's on a phone coming through mine, and obviously we're talking to Nigel, so it's me and Nigel moving, but Gary comes through mine. Anyway, I just thought I'd explain that. Anyway, good talk between some lovely men. Anyway, here we go. Hey, we're here this afternoon with Gary and Nigel. So hi guys.
How's it going,
Hi.
Karen? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so Gary, you're on with someone that you want to be on and have a hangout with, Nigel.
Definitely, because I've admired his work now for many weeks, you know, and his work has taken me to the next level, because I feel like I was a bit of a plateau where sort of like I couldn't connect certain things that I couldn't work out, because the way I see the world is I see all people, and but I can't. It's very hard for me to see what they're thinking. So for me, it was very hard to sort of like see how people couldn't see when things that I was trying to tell them. You know, when I see them wearing a mask and like you know, how sort of like this virus hasn't had a postulate test on it and things like that. But Nigel's told me things he said that in work he's done with you and with his own work, why I can work out the reason why that is now, you know, because they're not really part of our reality. You know, we're all electrical beings, and it's like they're on a different frequency, so it's impossible for them to see it.
That's right, Gary. Do you want to say anything to that, Nigel?
First of all, Gary, I want to tell you that when Karen sent me the chat that you guys had, I was absolutely delighted to hear that I'd managed to join so many dots, or so many puzzle pieces, because you know, over the last few years since I quote unquote awoke, what I spend all my spare time doing is trying to join dots. You know, I research what other researchers have been researching for a lot of years, and then that helps me join dots. And then I go, oh, okay, so that must mean for people to get to a certain level in their awakening or on their journey, and they get to a plateau, and they just can't seem to go above that. And that's what I try to do every day. You know, Karen will tell you that. I mean, we chat just about every day. And, you know, we're constantly, both of us, we're constantly just trying to learn more and understand more in order to just join a few more dots and put more puzzle pieces together. So, yeah, thank you for those kind words, mate. I'm really happy that I was able to help you do that.
Thank you, Nigel.
The thing is, then I can explain. Sorry, Karen. I can explain to other people better now my terminology, because sometimes I struggle with terminology, but sort of like, you know, I can work things out in my head, and then I have my repertoire ready, because you know it's very difficult to sort of like awaken some people, because I said to Karen like a long time ago, I said this is the easiest one out of them all to get, but you know, they can't seem to get it. We're all at different levels, but obviously we have to learn off each other. You know, like I told Karen, I've done many sort of like podcasts with Karen. I told her I was 9 years old, a 9-year-old boy with Asperger's, like, and I was questioning the moon landings then, because it all didn't make sense, you know, and my whole life hasn't made any sense. It's only been the last, I don't know, 10 years, I suppose. It's probably been about 10 years. I mean, as soon as I see flat Earth, I got it within 5 minutes, literally. I thought to myself, my God, you know, how comes I didn't see this before? But very often, when you just leave school, you don't think about them things, do you? You have bills to pay and a job to do, but, you know, everything has led to another. It's a continuous learning curve, because we're breaking down 500 plus years of sort of like rubbish, to be honest with you. And you know, it gets easier, but sometimes you get to a certain level where certain things still don't add up, and you can't work out other people can't. You know, it's very just can't get it, and they're never going to get it. I don't think. You know.
Gary's someone that goes and stands down at Speaker's Corner sometimes, aren't you, Gary?
Oh, I've been down there many times, and I done a test that sort of like proves that the astronaut suits couldn't work in a vacuum. Basically, what I made myself my own little vacuum chamber with only a marigold glove. Altogether, it cost me about £30 to do. The most expensive part was the battery-driven pump to evacuate the chamber. And basically what happens is, you've seen it, Karen, haven't you? What basically happens is you lose the dexterity in the glove. It's practically impossible. But you see them doing all these intricate little things in space when they couldn't possibly do it. They blow up like the Michelin Man. You know, it's all simple stuff. We're doing our own experiments. You know, the experiments they show us on the TV is obviously fraudulent. We're doing our own experiments now. We're breaking down all this rubbish. You know.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, so Gary does his own experiment, which is great. Yeah, you brought that down to the Speaker's Corner, didn't you? And I put my hand in. No, you put your hand in there.
Many people come up and tried it, and I said, do you imagine, like, you know, some people were saying, like, oh, that's only a stupid little marigold glove, and I said, yeah. I said, could you imagine, like, they've got a glove that's about sort of like 12 or 13 layers, it's going to be even worse. They're going to literally blow up like the Michelin Man. You know, it would be impossible. You know, and many other people have challenged NASA. I mean, two of my idols from the 70s, like, were two conspiracy theorists in the 70s. But obviously they've been proved to be true now, was a guy called Bill Casing and Ralph Renee. And Ralph Renee was the guy that I actually got that experiment off of. He done it about 1974, and he actually brought out a book called NASA Mooned America. You know, so I was on my own for so many years. When I used to tell people all this stuff, I used to say, "Oh, don't be so silly," you know. And it's horrible when you're on your own. And sort of like, you know, I've been following the longest time, long before I started speaking to her. I'm quite a shy person, so it was hard for me to sort of like, but it's hard for me to sort of like I have to get to know people because of my condition, to sort of like, you know, be able to converse with them, and you know, it was quite easy with Karen because she understood what I was talking about, you know, and a lot of other people in our community do, and it's great really, because I feel like I've literally been born again, because I've had people, I thought, you know, the longest time I thought I'm bonkers. Everyone else is sane and I'm bonkers. Now I realise it's completely the opposite.
Hey! Do you want to let Nigel answer then, Gary?
Yeah, go on.
Go on then, Nigel. Nigel?
You know, it's quite funny that you say that, Gary. I've lost count of the amount of times that, you know, Karen and I have been talking, and she said, well, Nigel, I know this. Why are you telling me this? And I'm like, you know, you're the only person, or the first person in 4 years that I can actually talk to on the same level. I've not had that luxury until I met Karen, anybody on the same level. So, you know, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, Nigel, it's so hard because, you know, you see people around you, like friends and you know, they don't look into any of this stuff. I mean, a lot of it, I suppose, is not being able to look into it. But I mean, I was knowing this stuff before the internet. I've been using like computers for less than 10 years. So with me, the stuff I was doing was internet free, and I was still sort of seeing the fallacies and everything. So obviously, with me start using mobile, you know, smartphones and tablets and one thing another, it took me to the next level, and I realised there was other people. I remember one day, and I really believe everything's designed. One day I just sort of like see come on the bottom of my screen, my tablet, the Sun and Moon group, and I thought, oh, let's give this a whirl. And then I see sort of like Karen on there, you know, years ago, and Astral Fiji used to be on one thing another, and I thought I'd like to join that, but I don't know whether sort of like I can do it, you know, speak to people that I don't really know. But I found that sort of like it's been a good avenue for me to sort of like get across to other people. And I mean, if we get sort of like a few hundred people hear this and it resonates with just one other person, I think to myself, you know, because my head's like a computer and it spins around and round and round, all this stuff going in there. And I think, well, that person might tell someone else. So it's like an acorn telling another acorn, then that acorn goes into a sort of like a tree, and before you know it, you've got more and more people woken up. But the only thing is, I think to myself, we're getting to a saturation point where you're only going to get so many people, you know. You can get the odd dribs and drabs, but
Well, that's what you've just been saying, isn't it, Gary? We're going to wake up.
you know, they're not going to get it. And you know, the strangest thing is, even if like I've never used a computer before and I see this on the TV, I'll start picking out the fallacies in it straight away. You know, I'll go to the hospital a lot where I live in sheltered housing. I have to go to the hospital with my mate downstairs a lot because he's not very well. And I said the hospitals were sort of like running at sort of like half mast, and it didn't weigh up what I was seeing on the television. So, you know, even without a computer, you still should be able to sort of like see that sort of like it's not quite what we're being told.
It never is, Gary.
That's the trouble, you see. The thing is, when you've got Asperger's, it's like, when you've got Asperger's, it's like, you just see the truth. It's hard to lie. It's very hard. And before, in the past, when I've lied, I end up having sleepless nights over it. So I find it very hard for people to lie. But, you know, people turn around and say to me, why would they lie? You know, because the thing is, you see, most people, like my family, my friends and all that, are very nice people, and they can't believe that people would tell blatant lies because they try and assume that everyone is like them. And they're not. They're working to an agenda. And unfortunately, you know, until people realise that people do lie, and it's you know,
we're in the biggest lie, Gary.
Sorry?
We're in the biggest lie right now.
It's the biggest one. It's a big. And do you know what I was saying to you a couple of weeks ago, Karen? I said it's the first time in history where we're actually sort of like taking this apart in real time. Like all the others, 9/11, the moon landings. All right, I said the moon landings when I was a 9-year-old. I was questioning my dad already. Imagine what the hell my mum and dad used to must have go through. Was sort of like me questioning, why is this, why is that, why is the other? Because that is what you do when you've got this condition. You're questioning things all the time. But when things don't make sense, and you're trying to find an answer. So someone on the TV gives you an answer that doesn't sort of like fit into that sort of like little bit of the jigsaw puzzle. You think, nothing else there. There's something they're not telling us, and it's great really, because like I said, I feel like my life has really started since I've actually started speaking to other people like myself, and I had the courage to used to go down to Speaker's Corner, and I was dreading it the first time I went down there, you know, about 4 or 5 years ago, all the usual crowd were there, you know, Jason, Roxanne, everyone else, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this, and I found I fitted into it quite well because of the knowledge I acquired about it. And you know, I spoke to many people that have been going to university, college, and one thing or another, and I think you're absolutely bonkers. But you know, if you can wake up a few people, I mean, a lot of them people, once you start rattling on,
no, that's all right, my darling. I think Nigel's waiting to say something.
Oh. Yeah, go on, Nigel. Sorry.
Nigel. Where's Nigel gone? Nigel!
All right, mate. Just a couple of things I want to throw in there before what?
Go on then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit behind, I think. On Go on then.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on then.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, a couple of things I want to throw in there. Firstly, yes, there's a lot of people that are never ever going to be woken up. And the crazy thing is, even the people who are quote unquote asleep are well aware that there are people in this realm, there are people in this world that do bad things. People in this world that kill people, that steal, that abuse children, and on and so forth. And they kind of accept that as just being part of reality, even though they know that they would never do those kind of things themselves. So the problem is, when it comes to things like, you know, the moon landing and, you know, the event that happened 19 years ago, they find it too difficult to accept that you know, that the governments of the world and the powers that shouldn't be would do that. Well, just because you wouldn't do that doesn't mean that they wouldn't do it. Just because you wouldn't abuse children doesn't mean that there are not people in this realm that do abuse, or, you know, whatever other example you want to use. But the other thing that I think is very important is, once you get to, I'm going to say our level of awakening, we know what we know, but it is so difficult sometimes, especially to someone who's asleep. You know, and people like us, we can sit and we can talk about anything, and we know where each other's coming from. And at times I've heard people say, well, what is the point? Because we're preaching to the choir, we're talking amongst ourselves. And my answer to that is, well, okay, I see where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, you might know something that I don't. I might know something that you don't. Karen might know something that neither of us know. But when we present that information to each other, quite often that new information joins a dot that's not even connected, or we don't even think is connected to the information being presented. So yeah, so up to a point, we're preaching to the choir, but while we're doing that, we're all growing because we're all learning more and more and more.
Yeah, can I just say, Gary, when you're not talking, it's better to mute because there's quite a lot of distortion coming through. It comes out on the Hangout. Would that be all right when you're not talking?
So hang on a minute. Which one's the mute button?
It's down there on the
left-hand side.
Yeah, it's a little bit hazy, you know, the reception. But go on, Gary. No, Gary, you can talk right now. You can answer back, Gary.
Oh right. No, what I was going to say was yeah, this is the dilemma we've got, isn't it? It's like you feel like you're living in the same sort of like space, but you're living in an alternative like universe. But at the same time, it's very bizarre, you know. And well, I've always felt this way. I mean, I've felt it for the longest time. I knew I was different. I thought, you know, was I born on Mars? We know Mars is just a luminary or whatever, but it is very bizarre. You just feel like you're completely different, and it's great to meet other like-minded people, because I might have gone all through my life thinking that there's just me out there, you know. If I never started using a computer or whatever, I'd never realise there was other people like me, you know. Well, a handful that I'd see on mainstream, you know. That's why I looked up to people like Bill Casey and Ralph Renee and others like them when they used to speak, because I thought, well, at least there's a couple of other people like me, you know. There's not many, but there's a few. But I realise now it's a worldwide thing with, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. Maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I agree. But the other thing that a lot of people don't get, and when I say a lot of people, I'm not just talking about the normies. I'm talking about, you know, a lot of people in general. A friend of mine in Australia is.
It's all right. It's just a little bit of distortion on Gary. Gary, mute yourself,
Sorry,
darling. Darling, you mute yourself. Gary's going to mute himself. Carry on now. Go on then.
Okay. I've got a good friend in Australia who I actually helped wake up. It took me 3 years, but you know, he finally got there. And he knows all about the Lyras and so on and so forth. Anyway, he sent me a quote today from the Bible, the typical, you know, Ephesians 6:12, which basically says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of darkness, or evil rulers in dark places, or whatever it is. And of course, a lot of people, even awake people, they think that is some kind of entity, some kind of Satan, some kind of Lucifer, or whatever it is. And when you actually look at it in perspective, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. We're wrestling against principalities. Well, what's a principality? Corporations, governments. And who rules? Who are the rulers? The people in charge of the corporations, the people in charge of the governments. So, yeah, we're not so much wrestling against flesh and blood, because principalities, which are, quote unquote, the government. You can't go and talk to the government. You can't go and talk to Walmart or Amazon. You can only talk to a representative of that principality or that entity, which is a corporation. You've only got to add an S, and you've got corporation. So again, you know, it's not so much about the lies. I mean, okay, the moon landing and all that was blatant, but for the most part, it's not so much lies, it's deception. It's leading you to think one thing when in fact it means something completely different. You know, and my friends full on, you know, oh, this is Satan. And I'm like, you don't even know what Satan is. You know, people have this idea in their mind of some red dude with horns and a tail. You know, no. Satan, the word Satan means adversary, means enemy. Beast system, the 666 beast to live. That is our enemy. And to the beast system, we are their enemy. So both sides have a quote unquote Satan, because Satan means enemy. So to the purveyors of evil, it is us who are Satan, and to us, it's them who are saints. Again, it's all about deception.
Right, Gary? We'll wait for him to unmute.
What do you think, Karen?
Well, from the moment I woke up, I knew it was all a lie, right from Walter's secrets level. So it got me into 16. Carry on, Gary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It makes you laugh. Like, who's got wealthy, like, in all this? Sorry, there's the little kids' machine, like, right next to me. I'm sitting on the floor, like, in the shopping centre. There's who's got welfare, like, in all this lockdown? It's all the big corporations, hasn't it? They've all made like billions, apparently. Amazon in the lockdown, you know, when other people have struggled. I went into a pub the other night, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I said to Karen, I said, I don't think I can do this podcast in the pub because they chuck you out if you've had your meal. Like, you feel like you're having sort of like up in a blinking prison, really. You know, they can't wait to get shot at you. And this is the thing, you see, when people can't see simple little things like when they say you can only have a substantial meal. Well, that's all. See, this is why I can't work out how people cannot see it. When I tell them this, I said that's all relative. I said a Scotch egg will be a substantial meal with some with anorexia. I've had 2 ex-girlfriends that suffer from anorexia. For them, they won't be able to polish off a Scotch egg. And there's a guy on the TV this morning, like, and he had two officers come in and said to him, people are not having the correct substantial meal. But what is a substantial meal? I mean, why don't people question things? This is what I can't work out. Is Karen made a very good point. She said, look, many times, she said, like, everyone just rolled over so easy on all this without sort of like questioning it. It's like, oh well, it's just part of life, you know. We just got to get on with it. But no, I'm not gonna have it. I'm gonna question things, you know. And
don't forget, this is a very clever one, because it comes when there's more than 6 people in your house. You go to the pub, you can sit with all these people there, maybe hundreds, but at 10 o'clock it comes. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it knows how to tell the time. And I will say one thing, there's some people that are completely unawakened. The fallacies in it, my mate Kevin, for one, he don't believe about the moon landings, but he still thinks 9/11 happened how we were told, and also he believes in the ISS. See, some people at different levels, but when I tell him about flat Earth, and I try and explain to him the science about how water always finds its level, and it's impossible to sort of like see the distances we're seeing. That is the true physics and the science, not the rubbish they tell us, you know. And he still won't look at it. I think some people are scared because their whole paradigm is like, you know, about what they've been taught. And you know, if I ever mention things like we've got to have like a solid membrane, you know, that's right at the end, because what you say, we're living in some kind of snow globe. I say, well, we have to. The physics say we have to. There's no other way of doing it. You can't have like a gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of barrier. It doesn't work. Sorry, Nigel. Do you want to talk?
Go on, Nigel.
Of course. I just point people to Werner von Braun's gravestone. Werner von Braun was the Nazi scientist who is credited for creating NASA. And on his gravestone is Psalm 19:1. And it's very interesting that there's 2 1s and a 9 there, but we won't go into that. The Psalm 19:1 basically says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. And that is on Werner von Braun's gravestone, easily accessible on the internet. It's right there. It's not on literally on his deathbed.
Well, this is the thing, you see, Nigel, right? When you sort of like speak to people and they say, oh, but I see it on the television, you know, how can so many people so many people keep at us about it? Obviously, the astronauts, but I explained to Karen like a couple of years ago how it all happened. It was a magician's trick. They went up the tower, stayed there. The rocket took off. It made an arc, landed in the Bermuda Triangle, and then they come down later on with it. Magicians have been doing that for the longest time. And then, you know, people turn around and say to me, why? And I said, listen, we can go to the wires afterwards. The thing is, have you been told the truth about it? You know, but don't worry about the whys. You know, it has happened, and some people just can't get it. Some people don't want to see it. You see, some people they live in their own little bubble, Nigel, and they don't want to see it. This is what I find with a lot of. I don't know if you've got anyone in your family that listens to you, but I've got nobody. I've got nobody in my family that listens to me. Nobody. So it's like I'm on my own, you know, and most of my family have passed away, to be honest with you. But you know, the cousins and one thing or another, they just think I'm bonkers. So I don't even mention it anymore. They just think I've got mental health issues. You know, that's what they put it down to. They just said, oh, don't worry about Gary. He's got mental.
I find quite incredible. I always say it. Well, we say we're not moving, and they want to believe that they're going in 3 different directions, one anti-clockwise with the moon, doing 1,000 miles at the equator, and then by the time you go the other way with the sun and the universe, it adds up to Mach 80, and they think we're crazy.
Well, while you're saying that, I've got to tell Nigel, I don't know if he's heard of this one, right? Now, the moon's moving at 10 miles an hour, so what a guy done, I don't know if it's that flat fellow or someone, what they done, they got a treadmill going at 10 mile an hour. And now, what you got to remember, like, you can't quote me on this, but I think it's 10 to the negative 12 torr or something on the moonlight of having no atmosphere. So the thing is, they tell them we're sort of like, don't feel it here because we've got our atmosphere and one thing or another, but they can't use that excuse on the moon. And so far, NASA ain't come back. So basically, if you're going the opposite direction of what a treadmill's going and you're an astronaut, you're running at 10 mile an hour plus whatever they're going. But as soon as that guy was to turn 45 degrees, because he said, I mean, it's like me, I've done it before I had my accident, like, you know, I've been on a treadmill and it's sort of like one of your mates sort of like speaks to you, turn around to sort of like have a chat with him and you lose your foot and you fall over. Well, you know, that don't happen on the moon, does it? I mean, you know, it's such a simple thing, and it's usually the answer is the right answer, always. And people, when the reality is always much simpler.
1 minute then, Gary. Nigel?
Well, the moon is a lamp. The moon is a lamp. I was telling Karen I watched a lunar eclipse back in 2017, and the moon was overshadowed by whatever it was and disappeared. It was a full moon. And then when it reappeared again, when whatever it was that covered the moon had gone, the moon just the same as a fluorescent light. You know, when you turn a fluorescent light on, it kind of flickers a couple of times and then comes on, right? Well, that's what the moon did. And I was watching it with a friend of mine, and we were just absolutely blown away. I went, did you see that? And she said, did you see that? I'm like, whoa, yeah. And so, yeah, the moon is not what we're told it is. Nothing like what we're told it is. It disappears for 6 days at a time. And Karen told me that it just goes further away. You can't see it. And then it will daytime in the afternoon, but you can't see it in the evening. So it's really, really weird. Really, really weird.
Well, the Bible just says it's a light in the sky, doesn't it?
But going back to family, yeah, it's a light. It's a light. I mean, even the Bible said that the sun and moon were created as lights, one to rule the day, one to rule the night. But I just want to touch on what Gary said about family. I was talking to Karen a couple of nights ago. I was actually quite upset because my brother, who's just turned 53, I sent him some information. He hasn't spoken to me for a couple of years. He just thinks I'm crazy. And he sent me a text, and basically he finished the text message by saying, "Please give my contact details to your boss so they can notify me when you are deceased." And I thought, whoa, how low can you possibly go? Please give my contact details to your boss so he can notify me when you're dead. I mean, can you believe that?
Well,
that's absolutely the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. I mean, you know, my family just don't agree with me, and most of my friends don't agree with me. But they never say something. They still say I'm the same old Gary they've always known, like for the longest time. He's just gone a bit bonkers towards his old age.
Gary, you're not bonkers. You're not bonkers either,
yeah,
Nigel.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying is, let them think that, you know, because, like I said, for the longest time, like, you know, I thought it was me. I thought there's 6 billion people on this. See, I listened to Nigel a couple of weeks ago, and I agree with him because I'm not sure like the population figures of the world are correct anyway. I think they're a lot less than what we've been told. What a rule of thumb what I do now is halve it or double it. Halve it or double it. In this particular situation, I'm probably gonna halve it. I don't think there's like 6 million people. It's like the dinosaurs didn't exist anyway. They couldn't support their weight. But they're saying like 65 million years ago, maybe this place only been here 6,500 years. You know, we just don't know. We're just breaking things down bit by bit. I mean, you know, we could speak for hours on Tartaria. We know there was an ancient civilization, not ancient in the real term sense of the word, like just a couple of hundred years ago, that which literally knocked spots of what we got now. You know.
Hey, Gary,
yeah?
It ended in the 1920s.
Well, I believe it did. I mean, we're alive now that was born before 1920, and the thing is, we just don't know. Because what you've got to remember, they fabricated everything from then onwards. But we know. Do you remember, Karen? I've sent you some stuff where we've seen mobile phones in the 1920s. In one of the Charlie Chaplin movies, they got a mobile phone. Everything's reinvented. Nothing's new. Everything's reinvented. They hold on to like patterns of things, and then Stanley Myers like invented like the water engine, and basically he perfected it so much that he actually got it to a situation whereby he could use an ordinary internal combustion engine and just change the spark plugs to make it run on water. And of course, they weren't going to have that, and he got poisoned. I don't know if Nigel's looked at that at all, but he should look at me. His name was Stanley Myers, and he invented an engine. Of course, all the oil companies were never going to sort of like have that. They probably give him an option of we're buying the pattern off you.
You get more heat off other things, don't you? Like water and air. They're hotter. The gases.
Yeah. Well, overnight, that literally like every sort of like big oil overnight.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I've looked at that.
You saying anything? Sorry, not only have we got Gary on a telephone, we've got delay with Nigel, so we're doing really well here, guys. He's a couple of seconds behind. Nigel is. He's on a bit of a delay. Yeah, it's all crazy, and every time you look at something, and then you look at it, and it just gets worse. There are so many avenues to look at. You just become engulfed with it all, because nothing's real.
And everything's made to go wrong when they can make things last forever. I mean, in the 1940s, the military invented a twilight that never. Is Nigel back? I'll let him talk.
No, go on, Gary. Finish off before he speaks.
Oh, basically, I was saying.
Gary's talking now. He's a couple of seconds behind. Go on, Gary finished, and then Nigel. Go on, Gary.
I was saying, like, you know, they in 40s, like, that could last forever out of a special, like, compound.
There are trains.
Wait a minute, he's still talking, Nigel.
No, go on, I'll pass over to Nigel. Pass over.
Okay, Nigel then.
I was muted.
Oh, go on then.
Oh. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on then.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go!
Yeah, I've looked at those cars. I am. I've looked at those cars. Some that ran on water, some that literally ran on air. There are old trains that used to run through perfectly round tunnels that used to run on compressed air. But you see, none of that made money, because it wasn't the oil and gas industry. It was all free energy. It was compressed air and water.
Well, that's true, isn't it, Gary? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm pretty sure like that jet engines are free energy machines. And they have a toroidal fuel when they're flying. I mean, they probably need a certain amount of kerosene or jet fuel to take them off. But I think, because you never see. I mean, every time I used to fly, I used to look out for sort of like all the jet tankers, jet fuel. I mean, years ago you used to smell that in the air, but you don't seem to smell it anymore.
A lot of them are piped there now, Gary. Yeah, it's all under the tarmac.
I don't believe you. Don't smell it. I've got another theory about that. I've got a theory they might have massive big tanks under the ground of compressed air, like, and they can sort of like, because the thing is, like, when the guy that fills up the plane, right? He's just doing his job. He might not even know. I just don't see it.
That means that the airports are lying, and they know they're lying, and the companies.
The amount of, if you go into a bus depot, like, all right, a lot of them have got hybrid buses now, and even some electric buses, which are fantastic, and they've got hydrogen fuel cells that are meant to be coming out as well. But if you go into an airport, which you can imagine would be just like a big bus station, I mean, I'm forever getting buses everywhere, like, and you sometimes smell the diesel or one for another. In an airport, it would stink of kerosene. You'd smell it everywhere because you cannot avoid it. It's unavoidable. You don't seem to smell that anymore. So there's definitely something wrong.
Yeah, I think when they put Airbuses out, it looks like they've used military stuff in our planes, because the military planes can almost go from ground to straight up in a couple of seconds, and now obviously these Airbuses can do the same. They fly in 4D. Fourth dimension.
Well, that's right. And if you see like the new Airbus, it couldn't have possibly support. That's what I'm saying about. Usually, the simplest answer is the right one. They couldn't support the weight of the wings. The weight of the wings wouldn't be support. What they turn around and say is, they say like it's even when it takes off, it's even pressure. All right. Well, I'll give them that. But that's not going to be on the ground. So if you fill up them two wings like sort of like aircraft fuel, which I can't say at this particular moment at the top of my head what it is, but I know it's about sort of like, I don't know, 80 Mustangs or Mustang cars or something. It's impossible. There's no metal. This is how I see like the fallacies in 9/11 from the moment I see it, because you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that something made out of aluminium, it's something that's made out of quarter plate steel. Something's got to give, and the aluminium's got the way it can sort of like go through a building and stick out the other end. Alternatively, it's the same as like a wing on a plane. I don't care what struts they use, I don't care what they say, there's no way that amount of tonnage and fuel could be put in wings, all the workings of the ailerons.
Yeah, those things are Cantona.
The hydraulics, you've got all the hydraulics, you've got all the hard work and stuff like that. You have not got fuel in them wings. Do
you know what that would mean, Gary? Gary, it mean that we'd be...
Yeah, well, the thing is, they'll be slopping around as well, because...
Oh, yeah, I put one of those videos in, that when he comes up to a T-junction, he was in his lorry, he had to do everything in a certain way, because the moment he put the brakes on, the liquid in the back's going to clunk forward. So how do people think that if all that liquid was in there, the moment that plane did a turn, it would fall out of the sky?
Well, it's going to slosh around, especially, all right, when it's full, it's fine, but once if it can take off with the weight, which it can't, once it gets sort of like airborne, and it starts sort of like emptying out as you're going to sort of like America or whatever, it's going to slosh around, and it's impossible. It can't work that way. It's impossible. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a tank in the fuselage, but I think when it's to a certain level, I just think they've got free energy machines, because I can't see any other way.
We've known that for a few years anyway, but it's a bit crazy that they're using a fourth dimension air machine and they're
Well,
calling it, now that's
well,
what it is.
I actually think like they can probably do the same thing with a power station. They could probably make a sort of like a generator and the same method. I'm sure they do. Go on, Nigel, I'll pass over you.
What they're using is compressed air. What they're using is compressed air. They use a bit of fuel to take off. They use a bit of fuel to take off. Once they get to cruising altitude, they switch over to its compressed air. Just the same as, you know, if you went to the local service station and took the end off the hose that you use to inflate your tires. If you took the end off that and just dropped it on the floor and let the compressed air come out, then you know that hose is just going to snake around. It's just going to go all over the place. So what they're doing is they're using these engines use compressed air. I mean, you're both perfectly right. You know, like what Karen said about a fuel tanker coming up to a set of traffic lights. You know, if he had to do an emergency stop, all that fuel is going to head to the front of the vehicle, and it's going to push it forward. Well, the same with an aeroplane. If it does a hard left or right turn, all that fuel, 237,000 gallons, you know, and just go and sit at any airport and look at the size of the fuel trucks. You know, they're not much bigger than a transit van, and yet we're supposed to believe that these things can go and refuel, you know, hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel in each aircraft. It's all nonsense, all of it. And it's common sense, you know, when you think about it. But people don't think. They just take it. They just take what they're told. They just swallow what they're told. The same with all this nonsense about the virus. They turn on the TV and they believe it all. You know, nobody's dying. You can't see anybody dying. There's not an empty chair at every dining table throughout the world, and there should be, but there isn't. You know, but people have lost the ability to think.
It's quite crazy, the aeroplane one, though, isn't it? All our lives we've believed it's one way, and now, like, you look at it and you think it's compressed air and it's flying 4D, and no one said anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different than like if you get a balloon when you're a kid. If you blow up a balloon and you let it go, to every reaction there's an equal and opposite reaction, and the balloon's going to go forward. But of course, that is also why rockets can't work in a vacuum. So the thing is, you know, I wanted to make an experiment was to sort of like prove that rockets can't work in a vacuum. They have to have something to push against. So that is why. That's another fallacy why sort of like rockets can't go into space or whatever, because when it goes, it pushes off the ground to start off with, and then it pushes on the air. But you know, we're led to believe like that sort of like when it gets into space, it still has what they do this trick whereby they stand on a little. I don't know, this little thing with casters on, and they throw a cannonball, and they say that is why it works, but it's not going to work. It's not. Many people have done experiments now to prove that a rocket can't work in a vacuum. It might move around, but it would move around in its own space basically. It wouldn't be out of any direction or anything, and it might not even do that, you know. So yeah, but as regards to that, yeah, it's compressed air. I mean, you know, you can. I don't know if you've seen the video of where sort of like they have an oil tanker and they evacuate the whole oil tanker and it collapses on itself, and you probably got like quarter plate there. How powerful air pressure is. Well, you know, they probably got tanks that are made out of quarter plate on the plane, and they can put thousands of psi pressure in them tanks to see them like across the air. And that's what I'm saying. When you see them filling up, how do we know that it isn't compressed air they're filling them up with? So these tanks on the planes, this is all hypothetical, of course, that they're filling up the tanks on the plane with, because I never smell. I try and pick up on things, and when I go on flights, I'm trying to smell for scene, and I've occasionally seen the odd tanker come up. Well, how do we know that isn't compressed air? I suppose you could say, oh, how comes the people that are driving it don't know? But maybe it's not in the tankers. Maybe they've got tankers underground. I don't know. I mean, we're sort of like breaking all this stuff down bit by bit, aren't we? But we know one thing: there's no way on God's green earth they've got like thousands and thousands of gallons of jet fuel in it, because it'd be like a big bomb, wouldn't it?
Well, I kind of had a look at a plane myself, by the way. So basically, there's not that much room on some of those smaller planes with under your feet, and they've got to put the luggage in there as well. So people have to think. So there's all this luggage and animals and cargo and bags and yeah, it's just impossible. And we did a hangout with Peter and Pete, and they had the auxiliary pack in the back of the plane. That's what they said the engine of the plane is. It's hard to get your head round because you see the four. Well, you could be four of them, couldn't they?
Well,
those engines, but they're not. They're just where they take the air in. They're not engines.
They're actually compressors.
Compressors.
What we're told are jet engines are actually compressors. They suck in the air from the front. It compresses it and blows it out the back, and that's what propels the aircraft. So they don't store compressed air. They don't store fuel. I'm not sure if they need fuel for landing, fuel to take off, to get them off the ground. Once they get to, what's cruising altitude? Oh, 33,000 feet. Nothing to see there. Please move along.
Do you know what? When you look up the engines...
They get to cruising altitude, and then they basically suck the air in and blow it out the back.
When you look at the engines, when you look at the engines, they spatter some of the fuel in the engine, and you're like, oh wait, what are they doing? They wouldn't be doing that. Like, I'm surprised the engines don't blow up. Sorry, the condenser.
Yeah, precisely.
It's a free energy machine. If there's more back than what's going in the front of it, it's a free energy machine.
People need to look up 4D flying. It's only in little mini planes at the moment. You'll find lots of mini planes doing it, but I think that's what the big planes are doing as well. That's why they're able to fly around like they're in the sea. Just above your head. Right.
Yeah, you sent me a video on that, the 4D flying. That blew me away completely. Yeah, absolutely.
Just in those little 4D videos, though.
There's a
Sorry, in those
little video that I sent you today.
Sorry, in the video 4D play, it flies on its tail. It goes hop, 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 hop on its tail. Just as long as our planes don't start doing that, we start hopping through the sky. Hop, hop. I'm hopping to America. Hop, hop. Yeah. That's a joke.
Well, I mean, they have evolved. I mean, obviously there was a time.
Gary, I sent Karen a link.
So he's a little bit behind, Gary.
Yeah, straight out, yeah.
You're a few seconds behind us, Nigel.
I sent Karen a link today. Yeah, it's a delay. Gary, I sent Karen a link today to a little 2-minute video. You'll find it on, Jennifer's channel. It's called Truth Seeker 69. It's called Mobile Phones in 1901.
Yeah, we've done all this one, Nigel.
The technology that we're talking about. Sorry?
I've done that one. I did mobile phones.
Right, yeah, I know. Yeah, I've done it as well. Technology that we're talking about has been around for a long, long time. There's nothing new under the sun.
That's what Gary said.
And we have been deceived and lied to about everything.
We have. Sorry, Gary, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, you've only got to use your own sort of like your own brain to work out things. When things don't seem right, they're probably not. Don't doubt yourself. I mean, you know, like with the there was a time when they did use fuel. In the second, my mum lived through the Second World War, and when they had the V2 bombs, like one landed in the road next to where she lived, like, you know, and they had a ramjet engine, which was basically that was by fuel, as far as we know. I mean, but I think they've evolved. Like maybe the early ones did need a mixture of like an internal combustion engine. They've evolved to sort of just run on compressed air, and obviously. But what makes you laugh is all the airline companies are still probably charged for fuel, so they're making money. They're making money like hand over fist for nothing.
Yeah, and do you know something? Schumacher, he watched the birds, how the birds flew, and it was electrically. That's how he.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's how he copied them. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, we're not told anything, are we? We have to work it out ourselves. But it's great, really, that we are, because you can go right through your life and just sort of be a sheep and just like think, oh well, everything's been worked out for us. We just go along with sort of like we're told. But then we don't want to do that, and thank God for that. Thank God we're not doing just going along with that.
There's a few of us with their eyes open. Yeah.
There's a few of us with our eyes open saying, no, we're not going to just sort of like accept that. They turn around and said, tell a person a lie, no matter how big it is, they're going to believe the lie rather than believe they've been lied to. And to be honest with you, it's great. When I told people that, it really resonates with even some awakened people, because do you know something, Nigel? People have a very, very high in their wrong. They really do. It's amazing. They can't just sit there and turn around and say, you know something, I might have been wrong. Let's listen to an alternative point of view. But they won't, because they've got to admit they're wrong and sometimes stupid with it. I'm right, maybe not stupid, but wrong. And people won't do that. Because now a lot of these people, if some thought themselves, oh right, this is just a virus, like, oh my giddy aunt, I've been walking around with a mask now for sort of like. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do it, because they prefer to go along with it now. I mean, you probably even got some people that do know it, and they're still going to wear a mask because they've been doing it like for.
Well, maybe some of them know it's not true, but they just don't care. They still don't care.
Well, I've actually had some people turn around and say, "Oh no, it's fashionable." I've had someone. Yeah, they turn around and say, "Well, actually, like it's part of me, like it's part of my persona, like it's a fashion statement." And I said, "Yeah, well, don't worry about all the CO2."
I know they get those designer masks, all made in material, but you need about 10 of them because you're supposed to wash them all the time, and those people wear the same mask all the time.
Well, they're now promoting a plastic see-through mask. Mask. It's hard plastic, and you put it on over your mouth and your nose, and people can still see your face. And this is supposed to be the #1 hottest product on the market right now. But all they're doing is they're taking the mickey, right? They're taking the mickey. Now, going back to what we were just talking about, aircraft, just for a giggle, just for a bit of fun. And I know Karen will do this because she'll love it. If you and look up the Wright brothers, the first flight, it's in black and white, and look at the people on this video. Nobody's paying any attention to what is happening with this plane. This is supposed to be the first flight, the Wright brothers' first flight, and nobody's looking. The whole thing is CGI. The whole thing is, well, not CGI, but the whole thing has been doctors, been put together. And if you, Gary, if you follow Karen's channel, you know that she's been doing a lot of work on these fake photographs and fake movies and that from 100 years ago or whatever. And I've got to be honest, she's doing an absolutely brilliant job breaking some of this stuff down. But have a look at the Wright brothers, the first flight, and look at the people in the foreground. It's the same or very similar to the JFK quote-unquote assassination, and there are people on the lawn on the grassy knoll. I mean, come on, grassy knoll. Whoever, where did that phrase come from? Oh, I need a pee. Okay, well, we're driving through the country. I need to pee. Let's just stop at the next grassy knoll. I mean, come on. Nobody uses that kind of phrase. But there's a couple of women, and they're just talking to each other. They're not even looking at the car. You can see that the whole thing has been pieced together.
I've broken that down, Nigel. Nigel, in that car, Kennedy goes, "I'm looking at you." That's what he does. You have to slow it down, and you do it in slow motion. He's going, "I'm looking at you." That's what he does from the car. It's all made up. It's all not real.
Wow.
None of that. But can I just
do you know something?
Yeah, of course it is.
Can I just,
Of course it
can
is.
I just say something about like the JFK thing? I'll tell you what I see straight away was sort of like I looked into a few videos about it, and his wife, like Jackie, 2 days later was still wearing the bloodstained sort of like dress that she was wearing at the time. Well, I mean, she's a billionairess. It doesn't make sense. That was obviously all filmed on the same day when she was in the mortuary or wherever it was, because she had the same dress on, and I thought, that don't seem right. You know, you're not gonna. She's got all this money, like, and she's got the same dress on, and also that Lee Harvey Oswald, they got marksmen to try and replicate the scene, and they try and make the scene as near from Dealey Plaza as what they could, and he couldn't get it right the first time. He's a marksman. He couldn't get it right. He did get it right in the end, but he couldn't get it right first of all. There's no way that guy could have done it. You know, because I think when they made this program, they thought it was going to be like, I don't think they were trying to break it down as a conspiracy. They just wanted to sort of like say, oh, let's see how Lee Harvey Oswald done, and I think they found it quite shocking when they realised the marksman couldn't do it. It wasn't that easy, you know. And you got the magic bullet, and then you got sort of like Jack Ruby afterwards, like that was well scripted. He was in the sort of like underground car park, and how did he manage to get in there? You know, allowed to get in there, and was Lee Harvey Oswald actually killed? We don't know. We don't know none of this, do we?
Yeah, it's all a story. It's his story. We've been going for nearly an hour. Wait a minute, Nigel, 1 minute. We've been going for nearly an hour.
Yeah.
Gary was the one that wanted to talk to you. So, Gary, any more questions for Nigel?
You keep up the good work, and like I said, you know, credit where credit's due. You've sort of like opened me up to sort of like other avenues. You've increased my knowledge really, really greatly, because I was plattering out a little bit, you know, and I couldn't work out how a lot of these people around me couldn't see this stuff. But you know, the stuff you were saying me, like we're on different sort of like lines and whatever, make different levels and different frequencies. I mean, we're all electrical beings, aren't we? So you know, on a different frequency, they're not going to see it. So you know, it's wasting my time. And I've got to that situation whereby now we should concentrate on ourselves, because you know, I'm not going to go wasting energy anymore, like, you know, trying to wake people up, you know. But I want to sort of like mix more with sort of like people in our community. And like I said, Nigel's been an absolute like gem for me, because a big up to him. That's all I've got to say, really. You know, I'm sure his head's sort of like getting bigger and bigger. But I mean, you know, I'll say it as it is. It's very hard for me to lie, because I can't lie. So I'm just saying that. You know, when I first heard him, it was very refreshing to actually sort of like say, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't know that, and that's why that makes sense. That's what, and sometimes I go to bed with all this spinning around in my head, like, you know, and I'm saying, oh, that links up with that links up with that, and it, because otherwise you just get caught in a plateau and don't move forward. So thanks a lot, mate. That's all I can say.
Oh, that's a nice compliment there from Gary. Nigel?
You actually have no idea as to how good that makes me feel, and I'm not talking from an egotistical point of view. I'm talking from more of a spiritual point of view. If I've helped just one person come to the realization that Gary's come to, then you know, my life's purpose is fulfilled as far as I'm concerned. But going back to the JFK thing, what people need to understand is that there is a book by Fritz Springmeier called The 13 Bloodlines. Kennedy and Onassis are both part of those 13 bloodlines. And of course, Jackie Kennedy was originally Jackie Onassis. And when you look at the footage, the Zapruder pictures that came out 12 years later, 12 years after the event, when JFK gets shot, Jackie immediately jumps on the boot of the car to retrieve something. We don't know what it is. We also need to remember that he was allegedly shot in the head, which means Jackie's dress would be absolutely covered, drenched in blood, instead of having just the 3 or 4 spots of blood that was on that dress. And as you said, Gary, she refused to change it. She, you know, that would be the first thing you'd want to do, would be go and get a shower and get changed out of the.
Well, surely it was evidence.
But,
it was evidence in a case.
You know, as you say, she was still wearing it days later.
It was evidence in a case. She should have taken it off. It should have been sealed then, shouldn't it? It's got the president's blood on it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So again, you know, the whole thing, in my opinion, was faked. I don't believe it for a second.
It's not very
but
good, is it?
It all ties in with what's going on now with the.
Well, look, everything is the same. 9/11, the wars. It just goes on. Everything's the same.
It's all patterns. It's all. This is the thing, you see, Karen. We can see this now. You know, do you remember like the first day when this Laura's thing happened? I think we was in contact with each other, and straight away we knew it from the very first, as soon as it come out, because of all these other things. There's patterns, and you know, we've seen patterns and everything, and straight away we knew it's got the same patterns, and probably it's the first time in history where we're actually deciphering it in real time. All the other things we've been like,
I said that.
after the event. Let's do after the event, and we're not. We're doing this in real time. It's almost like I feel like I'm living in a gigantic worldwide like film, and I'm watching it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm watching this film go on before me with all like B-act. It's a horrible B movie.
Yeah, we're in the film. You're agents. You're an agent. You boys are the agents. You're the agents. Working for the good.
Well, the thing is, it's all predictive programming. Like, I'm thinking to myself, am I Neo, like, or the agent? I don't know what I am. But the thing is, you know, we're living in this giant, like a big movie going on before us. With all sort of like extras. Everyone's extras, and we know that all the amazing work that Karen's done. We know that sort of like most of these actors play multiple roles, and we don't know who they really are. We have no idea. They blinking robots, some of them. We don't know. It's incredible.
Most of it is virtual reality cartoons they're doing. I don't know how they do it exactly, but it's not even a hologram, I don't think. It's just like, you know, your football game, just a better version of that.
You know, what is real? I mean, you know, if you watch the Matrix, like, you know.
Wait a minute, Gary. Let Gary finish. Go on, Gary, finish.
No, I say when you watch the Matrix, it really does. It does tell you. It's like you know, what is reality? What is, because if it's something you think you can touch, you're touching something. You're a load of atoms. You're touching something else, a load of atoms, and it's a hologram. It's a holographic universe. We're living a gigantic big hologram, and the powers that be know our minds think. They've worked on it long enough. Unfortunately, people like for my Asperger's, but there's loads of people like, you know, that have got various conditions that sort of like, you know, like my old mate Harry, like, who's dyslexic, and there's other people that have got various conditions that it doesn't work on them, but it's great because there's also people that haven't got any conditions that it doesn't work on as well. So it's just great that sort of like we're not just going to stand up and just roll over like everyone else, because honestly, I prefer not to be here. I prefer to go down fighting, like with it, sinking with it. Like, I'm just going to keep on doing this work, keep on watching like people like Karen and all the other people I watch, and listen to Nigel, and just. It's
gone a bit ugly, hasn't it, Gary? It's all gone. It's gone a bit ugly.
Well, I think it's the first.
Uglier than it was ever that you could thought it would be. It was bad enough when we all woke up on the flat thing. How more ugly can they get?
We're the enemy, aren't we? At the end of the day, no one was seeing this coming. We thought it was going to be a fake alien invasion, which I haven't thrown off of the table at the moment. They might even still roll that out in a couple of years' time, because people will believe it. You'll get people, if they come on a TV with like a load of flying saucers landing like on the White House lawn, people will hold themselves up. They'll say, "Oh, we're going to have to sort of like go out and defeat these aliens or whatever," and people will believe it. They believe anything now. So, you know, just got to go along with it. You know. Anyway, I'll let Nigel talk, but I think we better finish soon because I think I'm going to end up with Chalfont and Giles like piles because I'm sitting on a bleeding cold floor.
Oh, Gary.
Yeah, so I'll let Nigel speak.
Okay, Nigel, go on then.
There's Gary, you're talking about patterns, and we see patterns all the time, and we don't always know what they are. Now, let's just for a minute, let's just go back to the JFK thing. Now, JFK was the first Catholic president, and he was assassinated at the age of 46. Now, Biden, who's president-elect, will be the 46th president, and he's also a Catholic. Biden's son, Beau, died at the age of 46. Well, 46, what is the significance of 46? Well, allegedly, we have 46 chromosomes. We get 23 from our mother and 23 from our father, which is why that website was created, 23andMe, right? So there's a pattern emerging there without a shadow of a doubt. What it means, I don't know. But when I look at what I was talking about in the video, one of the first podcasts that I did with Karen, when we were looking at the biblical creation 1, which was Genesis 1, 27, 1 to 7. Then we have the second creation, which is Genesis 2, 7. The 1 is missing. We have the Pearl Harbor that happened on December the 7th. What towers came down, buildings 1, 2, and 7. So there are patterns throughout movie that we're all living in, and I'm now of the opinion that once we can see through the veil, once we can see through the veil of once we can see through the BS, we're no longer actors in this movie. We now become the directors of this movie. You've got a situation where we look at again NASA. We spoke about NASA early on. Darwin. Why are we deceived? Why is all this done to us? Because they want to hide creation. If you go back into any of the quote-unquote ancient texts, the Sumerians, the Mayans, the Peruvians, they were all very, very spiritual people. And, I've met a lot of, I lived in Australia for 15 years. I've met a lot of Aboriginal people, and they are really, really highly spiritual. Even the descendants of Aboriginal, a really good friend of mine, he's married to a Maori. She's from New Zealand. And, she's integrated herself into regular society, but this woman is so highly spiritual. They know stuff that we're not taught. So the whole deception with the Darwinism, the moon landings, the nonsense is all, and God, of course, and of course the God of the Old Testament, it's only God because he says, I am God. But the whole thing is to distract us from understanding who we are, not what we are. We look in the mirror and we're looking at what we are, and who we are, then this is why we have a much deeper connection, what we call a spiritual connection, which is what people like me and Karen and you and Amy and Gillian, other people have got. We have this spiritual connection because we're beginning to understand who we are instead of looking at the what we are, the ego. The I don't want to be wrong. I won't admit that I'm wrong. I'm the first person to admit I'm wrong. I'm the first person to put my hand up. Whoa, yeah, okay, I was wrong. But it's all about hiding quote-unquote creation, it's all about hiding source. Whatever or whoever created this realm and created us spiritually is what people would call God.
Can I say
it's not
something?
God in the biblical sense.
Can I say something? I actually wonder whether,
Yeah, of course.
Tartaria, if it only finished in the 1920s and we're the baddies, then I just wonder what we're covering up that way. I think a lot of it has to do with them taking out Tartaria, really, or trying to take it out so that we're never taught it. It should be in our history books. Even if they don't like it, we conquered them, or whatever it is, it's not even there.
Yeah.
So something, we're the baddies. Anyway.
Well, can I just say something? I mean, basically, I believe what Nigel was saying is right. I think what's happening is the powers that be know we're breaking through the veil. We're breaking through the veil, you see, and we're the directors, like you said, we're the directors and the producers, and we're starting to break through, and they've got to limit the amount of people that are doing this, because our collective consciousness can actually change reality. I really believe that. I mean, a lot of troopers are not going to believe this, but I think they know how powerful we actually are, and they're limiting the amount of people that are like us, because our collective consciousness is super duper powerful, and we're in a number. There's sort of like a breakthrough number, and they don't probably know the exact number, but they know that if there's so many people, and we've been created. And when people used to ask me, what is a give me just one reason, I say it's because they're hiding the creator. I've always said it. I've said that is the number one thing. All this bullshit, the whole lot is hiding the creator, because then that makes us all level in God's eyes. We're all equal. No one is above anyone else. There's no monetary system. There's no sort of like I've got more than you. It makes us spiritual beings where we're helping each other, not sort of like fighting each other. I mean, I'm forever doing it. I'm forever giving. I'll see. Like,
I think it's quite a strong thing, the spiritual bond. To be honest, we just know things together, feel things. We're a bit when you're.
I think we're originally telepathic. I mean, I know sometimes, Karen, when you're at the phone. When I'm down Sainsbury's, because usually I'm down Sainsbury's, and I know when you're on the phone. I was looking at the phone one day, and I thought Karen's going to phone up any second, and you have. About a minute later, you phone up, and I think we're reconnecting that sort of like our telepathic consciousness, and this is what they're scared of. And there's more and more of us, and we're just going to keep up. We're going to keep on going, and we're going to sort of like be the writers of this script, not just sort of like producers and the directors. We're going to win in the end. I love you both. So anyway, I've got to get up soon, because I can hardly move. I'm sitting on a cold.
Okay, let Nigel finish his bit, and then we'll finish. He's got Num sitting on the floor, Nigel. So after you, we're going to finish.
I totally
Nigel,
agree with you.
Did you hear me?
I totally agree with you.
He's behind us. He's got.
I can hear you.
Good then.
I totally agree with what Gary's just said. But I'm going to throw something out there that is going to blow people's minds. Are you ready for this?
Go on then.
Okay. Genesis 1:27 says, let us create humankind in our image and after our likeness. That's in Genesis 1:27. But in Genesis 1:21, it says God created the great whales. Well, that's the translation. But if you go into the original Hebrew text, it says that they created serpents, sea monsters. And that's in Genesis 1:21. And we weren't created until 1:27. So let me throw a mind F out there. What if the real conversation in 1:27, Genesis 1:27 was, look, I'm sick to death of creating these fucking monsters. I'm sick to death of creating half man, half horse. I'm sick of creating unicorns. I'm sick of creating this being and that being, right? I'm bored. I'm sick of it. So why don't we just create man that looks like us? Why don't we just create people that look like us in our image and after our likeness. Why don't we just do that instead of playing around with all this nonsense? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, let's do that. We've got no idea what was created prior to us being created in Genesis 1:27. We know in Genesis 1:21 they created serpent/sea monsters, because that's what the Bible tells us. So what if they just got bored with creating these things that are in our myths and legends, and then they decided to create humans in their likeness, and then that was copied in Genesis 2:7.
Well, just one big experiment.
Without the one, huh?
Just one big experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you study the Enki and Enlil narrative, you will see that it's just one big experiment. And it's almost as if they didn't want us to become as intelligent as we are. They didn't want us to wake up. It's just that they wanted to create a slave race. And we can read about that in the Sumerian creation on your channel many, many times. I will create a primitive. I will create a primitive man so that the gods will have their ease. So we were created in Genesis, or the Adam and Eve were created in Genesis 2:7 to be slaves to the gods that were created in Genesis 1:27. And that is exactly what the Enki and Enlil story talks about. And I can't remember which way round it was, but it was Enki or Enlil. One of them, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be part of this. But the whole thing happened. Then you have the Cain and Abel story, which I showed was displayed in Space Odyssey, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was taken. Even though I put it on my channel, it was taken down within seconds. That's the one that I sent to you, Karen.
Yeah.
And I've sent to other people, and they're like, "Whoa, dude, yeah, it's all there. It's all there right in front of us." But most people just go, "Yeah, whatever. No, don't believe it." Well, belief is the enemy of knowledge. We don't need to believe anything. We need to, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to know what went on in the past. We're trying to know what's been done to us, and realize and understand or understand the whole narrative and why we have been lied to and why we have been deceived. There's a lot of truth in that cliche. The greatest trick the devil ever played was convince the world that he didn't exist. True, that resonates with me so much. I'll say it again. The greatest trick the devil ever played was told that he doesn't exist. And you know, even the Bible says he shall deceive the whole world. Even the elect shall be deceived. Government, ScoMo and Bojo and Trump, you know, they will be deceived. And it's all there. It's all there right in front of your nose. If people can be bothered. You know, my mum brought me up with a cliche. You don't find time, Nigel, you make time. And when people say, "Oh, I don't have time to research," BS. Sorry, I don't go along with that. I haven't got the time. No, you don't find time, you make time.
Well, we all have,
and
haven't
that's
we?
what I've been doing.
Nigel, we've all been doing that. Even Gary, but I think Gary, the actual this hangout because he wants to get off the floor now, don't you, Gary?
Well, just one more thing I'd like to say is we manifest our own reality. We're all doing it, and the thing is, what they don't want, they're terrified of all us, and we can do it. We don't even have to meet face to face. I mean, I know Nigel's in China, like, you know, we might meet face to face, we might not, but it doesn't matter because our collective consciousness can manifest our own reality, and we're trying to sort of like, we want a perfect world to live in for sort of like our children and like our children's children. And we don't want sort of like the ruling elite to just sort of like everything, and then we've got all the scraps at the bottom of the bleeding bin. And the thing is, we're going to keep on fighting on until we win this thing, because we can manifest our own reality. We're going to be the writers of this script. We're going to like generation.
Yeah, Adjustment Bureau. The Adjustment Bureau.
Oh, that was, I know it's hard to tell you, Karen, that was only on the See How You Manifest Your Own Reality. That was actually on the Sony movie channel the other night. I've still got to watch it. I recorded it so I can watch it.
Yeah, watch it. You'll be blown.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I'm so busy like watching things on YouTube. I don't have much time for TV, but I will watch it at some point. Anyway, I better.
Anyway, Gary, you wanted to speak to Nigel, didn't you? Because he resonated.
yeah, he really did. And to be honest with you, Nigel, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You know, speaking to you at last, and I tend to speak very quickly. Like I have to sort of like slow down. Trouble is with me, I start off I'm like a clockwork bleeding toy. Like I start off like very slowly, like, and I sort of like build up to it. And I would have carried on to be honest if it weren't for the fact my butt cheeks are like bloody numb.
Oh, poor Gary. Right, don't go. When I press the record button to stop the hangout, we'll all say goodbye off air. But Nigel, got anything else to say before we go? But be quick.
I think, to be honest, you know, it doesn't matter if we don't actually meet in the physical, because we're all connected. And this is the beautiful thing about the what is known as the truth community. You know, we are all over the world. I'm in China. You're a geezer in the freezer down in London, right? In the UK, I've got friends in Australia. Here, I've got friends in the UK. I've got Karen. You know, we're all over the world, and we're all talking the same language. So yeah, it would be great, absolutely great, you know, to sit in the pub with you and have a couple of beers and talk about this. But people who were listening to us would think we were crazy. The last time I was in Australia, I went to a flat Earth meeting, and there were like 12 or 13 people, and we were all sitting around a table, and we're all talking about flat Earth, and we're all talking about all the bullshit that goes on. And on the staff, the people that were coming up and taking drink orders, they were kind of listening to us, and they were giggling, and they were all thinking that we were crazy. But we all knew that we're not crazy, but the people listening to us thought we were, you know, or, you know, they think we live on a flat Earth. They think the Earth is flat. Yeah, I mean, these people are brain dead. They've got no cognitive.
I tell you what, when you wake up, Nigel, when you wake up, you learn all sorts of stuff that you never thought you were going to learn. In fact, now you got to learn the globe to actually talk back.
Oh my God, Karen! You are
to talk back to the people who have, you know, so you can explain it back to the globe people. Like, but Gary has as well, haven't you, Gary? You're a little.
What's that?
Well, you've had to learn even more now than you ever thought you'd have to learn.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I know when I speak to most globies, I know more about the globe than what they bleeding know. Yeah. Because I have to sort of like to fire off any sort of like questions they may have for me. You know, the answers. But the thing is, it is what it is. You know, we're a very small in the world population, which I think is fake of us. We're a very small minority, but it's growing. But I think we can do it with the numbers we got, because we're getting more spiritually sort of like evolving all the time. All of us, we're all spiritually evolving. I know I am. I mean, if you remember the first like podcast I ever done with you a couple of years ago, whether it was Karen, I was stuttering and one for another, but I'm building up my confidence, which is a great thing. It's because, you know, first of all, it's very hard for me, but
Yeah, well, Hangouts
I do
isn't
it
for
with these now.
everybody. They're not. It's not for everybody sharing
Yeah,
sharing
it's
yourself
very hard. It's
publicly.
very hard.
But
It's very hard. But the thing is, like, you know, we are a small community. But having said that, it's not the fact we're growing in numbers. We got a spiritual connection which they can't take away. They can take your car away. They can take your house away. They can take anything they want. But they can't take take the spirit out of you, because that's a completely different thing. That is one thing that can't. Most things are for sale, but that bloody ain't, mate. And it doesn't matter what it away from you. And like I said, we're even though we're small,
we're high in spirit. Small in number, high in spirit.
Exactly. We're all, and you know something. Like I said, it's great for me because I finally realised in the last few years there were people like me. You know, we was all suffering in silence.
Well,
but now we've all got together. We all got together.
Right. Hang on.
Well, anyway, Nigel, we're finishing. Nigel, he's having the last word.
Let Nigel have a last word. But anyway, listen, mate. It's been good to talk to you, and we'll do another one sort of sometime in the new year. Okay.
Okay, go on then, Nigel. Nigel? He's gone silent now. Nigel!
Right, I really need to come in. I really need to come in here.
Go on then.
What?
Go on then, finish. We're finishing now. You've got the last word.
Okay. The V, that is what it's designed to do. It's designed to remove our spirituality. It's designed to remove our soul. It's designed to remove our connection to source. That is what this V is about. That's what it's always been about. You know, Gary says that they can't remove our soul, they can't remove our spirit. Well, yeah, they can. And if
they have done to a lot of people.
Then that's it. You're going to become a lost soul. Look at movies like The Dawn of the Dead. Look at movies, you know, the zombie movie. It's all predictive programming. It's all, that is what they want to do. They want to remove our connection to source, connection to what most people call God, which is not good. They want to remove our connection to the Creator, and that is what the V is designed to do. Now,
okay,
I was looking at MSN Day. And they're talking about the Pfizer V and about how wonderful it is and how it's all been, you know, proven to be awesome. And then when you look at the other side of the coin, you're looking at people who have died who have taken the V. And, you know, Bill Gates himself has basically said that it may.
Anyway, we can't talk too much about that one, Nigel, we can't talk too much about that because they'll give you strikes. But anyway, listen, we're going to finish now because Gary has got a numb bum. So, first of all, thank you, Gary, and thank you, Nigel. Thank you for your... Oh, hang on, I'll just turn Nigel down, Gary down a little bit. Say that again, Gary?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, when it gets a bit warmer, we'll do another one. But I'm very limited to where I can do it, you see, at the moment. So I'm using the shopping centre, sitting on a very cold floor.
That's all right, my darling. Gary, Nigel, chat room. Thank you very much. Brilliant talk. Thanks very much, guys.